How did the old world heat massive stone palaces in sub-zero winters? The official answer, fireplaces, is a mathematical impossibility. Today, we audit the thermal paradox. We'll expose wireless cast iron receivers, forbidden radium batteries, and cathedrals that generate heat through sound. We have the data and hidden truths you never even suspected. Let's begin.
Look at the photograph. Really look at it. It is 1850, or perhaps 1893. The location doesn't matter. It could be St. Petersburg, Chicago, or Paris. We see a cathedral, a palace, a government hall. The ceilings are 40 feet high. The windows are single-pane glass, stretching 20 feet from sill to arch. The walls are solid stone, 3 feet thick. And outside it is the tail end of the Little Ice Age. The temperature is 20 degrees below zero. The wind is howling against that glass. The stone is a thermal vampire, sucking the heat out of the air faster than physics should allow. And yet, look at the people inside. Ladies in silk dresses with exposed shoulders, men in thin tailcoats. There is no steam coming from their mouths. There are no heavy furs wrapped around them. They look comfortable, perfectly comfortable. Official history tells us this was achieved with fireplaces, open, wood-burning fireplaces. They tell us that a few piles of burning birch logs, sitting in a hole in the wall, somehow heated a volume of air equivalent to a modern football stadium, enclosed in frozen stone. I am an engineer. I deal in metrics. I deal in BTUs, thermal conductivity, and R values. And I am here to tell you that the official narrative is not just a lie. It is a mathematical impossibility. Whatever warmed the old world, it wasn't wood, and it wasn't cold. Today, we audit the temperature, and we find the history books cold.
Let's strip away the romance and look at the thermodynamics. A standard open fireplace has a thermal efficiency of roughly 10 to 15%. That is a generous estimate. This means that for every 10 logs you burn, 9 of them are effectively thrown directly up the chimney. The heat doesn't stay in the room, it rises rapidly. Now, apply this to an old world structure. Let's take the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg as our control group. We have halls with 30-foot ceilings. Heat rises. It is the first law of convection. In a room with a 30-foot ceiling, any heat generated by a fireplace sits trapped against the ceiling fresco, 30 feet above your head. Down on the floor, where the people are, where the ladies in silk dresses are standing, the temperature would be virtually identical to the temperature outside the walls. To maintain a habitable temperature of just 65 degrees Fahrenheit in a stone hall of that volume with outside temperatures at -20, you would need a continuous heat output of roughly 400,000 BTUs per hour. A standard Victorian fireplace puts out maybe 20,000 useful BTUs. Do the math. You would need 20 fireplaces roaring at full blast 24 hours a day just to keep the water in the flower vases from freezing. And yet, we see the photos. No soot on the white marble walls, no piles of thousands of logs. The rooms are pristine.
So where is the heat coming from? If you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. The buildings themselves were the heat source.
Let's go back to the scene of the crime. Chicago, 1893. The Manufacturers and Liberal Arts Building, the largest building ever constructed at the time. 44 acres of floor space, a roof over 200 feet high, and mostly glass. Do you know the R value of single-pane glass from 1893? It is virtually 0. It offers no insulation. It is a sheet of ice. And yet, thousands of visitors wandered these halls in light clothing. Official guidebooks mention steam heating, but the volume of air is too fast. To heat this building with steam, you would need a boiler room the size of a city block. You would need a forest of smokestacks pumping black coal smoke into the pristine, white city. Look at the aerial photos. Where are the smokestacks? Where is the black soot? There is none. The city is smokeless. Yet, it was warm. Was the entire fairgrounds a giant energized circuit, vibrating the air molecules to create heat without combustion? They burned it down, remember? Maybe they didn't burn it to hide the construction. Maybe they burned it to hide the generator.
The historians cry, "Look at the chimneys." Yes, let's look at them. Have you ever really zoomed in? They are ornate, complex, often capped with metal spires or intricate copper cages. Many of them are sealed. I have spoken to roofers, men who work on these 19th century courthouses. Do you know what they tell me? It doesn't go anywhere. A dummy flue, a chimney that stops 6 feet down into the attic and connects to nothing. Why build a chimney that doesn't vent smoke? Unless it wasn't a chimney, unless it was an intake or an antenna. If you run a specific frequency through a conductive shaft surrounded by masonry, red brick, quartz, granite, you create a piezoelectric effect. You vibrate the stone. Warm stone radiates heat. Think about the Russian stoves, massive piles of brick that hold heat for days. Now imagine the entire building is the stove, and the fuel isn't wood. The fuel is the atmospheric potential difference between the ground and the copper tip of that chimney. Now, the hardware, the radiator. Look at a Victorian cast iron radiator. Have you ever asked yourself why they are so ornate? Why the intricate floral patterns? Modern engineering tells us simple fins work best for heat exchange. But the old world didn't build fins, they built art. Why? Because form follows function. If you are just pumping hot water, a pipe will do. But if you are trying to capture a frequency, you need specific geometry. Think about a tuning fork. Now look at the radiator again. It is heavy, conductive, iron. It sits on the floor, grounded. In many pre-1900 photographs, we see these units standing in rooms without pipes attached. Let me repeat that. No pipes. The historians say the pipes were hidden in the walls. In solid brick walls, without insulation, the heat loss would be catastrophic. Water wasn't the medium. Radiator, the word itself tells you, it radiates. It picked up the piezoelectric charge from the stone and amplified it into thermal energy. They disconnected the sky. They filled the radiators with water,
and they sold us the coal to heat the water. They turned a wireless receiver into a steam kettle.
And then there is the fuel we are forbidden to discuss: radium. In the early 20th century, radium was everywhere. Patents from the 1890s show radium stoves, a device the size of a bread box that could heat a room forever. Zero maintenance, zero fuel cost, zero smoke. Radium generates heat as it decays, a nuclear battery, effectively. Imagine a world where you buy a heater once and it stays warm for 1,000 years. Who loses money in that world? The coal barons, the lumber industry, the railroads. If the heat is free, the control is lost. So radium became deadly. The stoves were confiscated. The technology was buried. And we went back to burning dead trees.
We must also consider sound. The great organs, pipes 30 feet tall, producing infrasound frequencies so low the human ear cannot hear them. Why build an instrument to play notes you cannot hear? Unless the sound wasn't for listening. Sound is pressure. Pressure is heat. It is called thermoacoustics. A massive stone cathedral tuned to a specific resonant frequency, vibrating the air molecules. Friction at the molecular level. The air itself becomes warm. No fire, no smoke, just sound. The hymns were the ignition code. The organist wasn't a musician. He was the engineer keeping the reactor stable. When the music stopped, the cold crept in. Finally, we must look down to the mud flood evidence. Windows half buried in the ground, doors that lead into soil. We call them basements now, but in a geothermal system, the earth is the heat source. The buildings were lungs. They breathed in the earth's heat through conductive red brick arches and exhaled it into the living quarters. But when the soil level rose, whether by catastrophe or design, that connection was choked off. The engine was suffocated, and we were left shivering in the attic, wondering why the floor is so cold. So here we are. We live in boxes made of drywall and plastic. We pay a monthly subscription to stay alive. We burn gas. We burn coal. We burn money. We look at the photographs of the Winter Palace and arrogantly assume they were freezing. We assume they were primitive. No, they were warm. They had mastered the elements in ways we are not allowed to understand. We are the primitive ones. The technology wasn't lost. It was dismantled. Because you can't meter the sun. You can't put a price tag on the vibration of a stone. But you can sell a ton of coal. Stay warm, if you can afford it. End of audit. Subscribe to the channel. Write in the comments what you think about all this.